is Megan Hutson, and I'm a homework consultant representing BJU Press Homeschool. Today we are going to look at the course resources for the elementary math textbook kits on the Homeschool Hub. So let's jump into the Hub and see what's there.
I am now logged into the Homeschool Hub, and I am on the Courses tab. As you can see, I have uploaded all of the parent-led courses for Math K-5 through Math 6. Each course has different course resources. The way you get to those course resources is the same for each course. So start by clicking the Details button, and then go to the course resources. There should then be a file that says Online Resources. When you click that, it will pull up the course resources available for that course. Since I'm looking at K-5 Math, let's see what's in here. I first see a 1, 2, 3 write file. When I click Download, this will pull up a page that looks like this. I can practice having my child write their numbers. The next thing I see is a file called Biblical Worldview Scope. Looking at this file, I can learn about how the biblical worldview is interweaved into K-5 Math, the instructional aid file. When I download that, I will find all the instructional aids I need to teach this course. This will probably be the file I use the most when I'm teaching this to my child. I do notice in the bottom right-hand corner that I have a note here that says Instructional Aid 7. When I'm using my Teacher Edition book, I might have a note in my Teacher Edition materials for that day's lesson that says either instructional aid followed by a number or IA followed by a number. Those charts are these instructional aids in the course resources, so just match them up when you're teaching the lesson. The next thing I see is called Math Boards. This is suggestions for how to create a bulletin board if you would like to create one for your classroom. I also see a file called Songs, Audio Files. This is a zip folder full of the instrumental songs to go with your K-5 math. The lyrics to these songs are usually in the back of your Teacher Edition book. These are the visual charts that you would have a physical copy of in your textbook kit. If you wanted to pull them up digitally, you do have access to that on the Hub as well. The last file I see is called Web Links. This is an Excel sheet that can be downloaded, and it has different resources such as an interactive analog clock or some charts to be able to practice counting. So there are web links that you can use if you would like to when you're teaching this course. So that's K-5 Math. I've swapped over to Math 1 5th edition, and these are the course resources I see for this course. There are quite a few more options than what K-5 had, and you might also notice that the instructional aids are split by chapter. I'm just going to highlight a few of these different resources for us. The first one I see is the enrichment pages. These are extra pages that can be used for more practice. They're often a little bit different than the way that you worked through problems on the day's lessons throughout the week. These are just providing extra ways of thinking through similar type problems. The next thing I see is the fact reviews. These are worksheets to help practice your fact reviews, and you can print these out and work through them as needed. I also see some flashcards. These can be printed front and back, and then you have a way to practice your math facts. There is also a file called Memorizing Addition and Subtraction Facts Chart. This chart will show you when math facts are taught and which lesson these facts are taught in. The last thing I'm going to highlight from Math 1 is the chapter tests file. This prints your coins in color. So if your child needs to see the coins in color to help with value, you can print those pages from the Hub. I'm now in the Math 2 5th edition, and these are the course resources I have available for this course. Some highlights include a fact review page. You can print these off and use as needed. We also have a math background for the teacher page. This will highlight some of the things that you are teaching in this course and in future courses and even in previous courses, and it will show you why things are sequenced a specific way. We also have the Memorizing Math Facts chart. Similar to what you had in Math 1, this will show you when different math facts are taught or reviewed in specific lessons. The last thing I'm going to highlight in Math 2 is the test and answer keys in color document. You do have access to print that out as needed from the Hub. I'm now in the 4th edition of Math 3, and the course resources here look very similar to what I've been seeing in the other courses. The one I'd like to highlight in this course, though, is this file called Solid Figure Patterns. You can print this out as needed, and what it is a net that you can cut apart and glue and tape together to create a three-dimensional object. In the 4th edition of Math 4, you'll find very similar course resources as well. The highlight I'd like to point out here is the extended activities. Math 4 provides some extended activities that you could add on at the end of any of your chapters to bring in more information. The 4th edition of Math 5 also has many of the same course resources. The most notable difference here is the daily review file can now be downloaded and printed out to have your daily reviews be practiced on a separate sheet of paper. Math 6 is when students will transition from a work text style book to a student textbook. The course resources will look similar to what you've been seeing, with a few notable differences. The application file will take some of the concepts they've been learning and have them apply them in different ways that might be a little bit more challenging. You will also have a file called Exploring Ideas, and this takes a couple of different ideas and has you apply knowledge to investigate those topics. And finally, there's a solutions file. You may have noticed that the amount of work required in Math 6 is beginning to take a little bit more effort than in previous math courses. Because of this, you might need an extended solution to help you be able to follow along and guide your child to the correct answer. You can find those overflow solutions that do not fit into your teacher edition book in the solutions file on the hub. Thank you for joining me as we looked inside of these textbook kits at the course resources you can find on the hub. If you have other questions, please feel free to reach out to your local Homeworks by Precept consultant. We are all here to help you.